You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 186, Gillan Double Trouble Studio LP. And coming to you from the going viral suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Tech Support Matola.
Tech support. You got a new job?
No, it's the same old crummy job that I've always had. It's just getting worse.
The same job that doesn't pay anything.
Yep. As my parents are getting older and I am the closest son since by
a considerable margin,
by thousands of miles. I am the one that they call up when anything goes wrong, and I mean anything. So today Pops is in a frenzy. He's just like, I can't. I mean, first of all, he can hear his TV. It's not coming out of the speakers. The sound isn't coming out of the speakers he wants them to. He can hear it through the
sound bar or something.
Well, that's the thing. Okay. This is frustrating because he has the TV, the sound coming from the TV.
Yep.
He's got two, I don't know if they're Bose, but they're another like kind of high end speaker, two, like one on each side of the TV, which he's had for like, I don't know, 15 years. Then a sound bar that I bought for him, which basically just hooks up with one cable. He never uses the friggin' sound bar. It's like, it's annoying to no end because he's just set in his ways. So anyway, apparently, and he's got this receiver that's like the size of my desk that is like under the TV. And I'm like, you don't need all this, but he won't change. So apparently my mom was dusting. She was cleaning, pulled out the receiver, or she did something, and now he can't get any sound from the speakers, and it's a crisis because he has two other ways that he can hear sound, but he wants to hear from those speakers.
Four other options, yeah.
So I go over, and I'm like, he's just sitting in the chair, like, help. He won't get up. He won't do anything. He's just like, help, and he just points at it. I'm like, no context. I don't know what's happening, and so I'm like, all right. So I'm just down there pressing buttons like any idiot would be able to do. And then he calls my mom, and I'm just like, shh, no, don't. And then as soon as she comes over, she starts getting involved, which makes it worse because now I got both of them poking around, telling me what to do. I'm like, you could have just done this without me. But anyways, so finally we get to the bottom of it. Did you pull out the receiver when you were dusting in this area that never needs dusting? Because who the hell dusts behind their TV regularly?
It probably does need dusting, but
well, yeah, it does. But I mean, do you really need to? So anyway, I pull it out, and there was one lone cable just unplugged, and I'm like,
there,
all right, that's got to be the culprit. So it's like red. There's red, so I just plug it in. Boom, sound back. Well, see you later. Gotta go. That was it. I was, oh, you're a genius. No, I'm not.
Too bad you weren't charging them for it, because then you could just be like, oh yeah. Well, you've needed some it's very technical. I don't want to go into exactly what I did, but yeah, I'm glad you called me because the whole thing could have blown up. That'll be.
You should just like go on one of those apps where you can hire a handyman or anybody to like do anything and just to take advantage of elderly people. Like, oh, my computer doesn't work, and then I just press the on button. All right, that'll be $75.
I got something better. You should create an app that helps connect people with elderly people to take advantage of.
Actually, I think there was. I want to say there was a movie.
We'll call it
like
Elder
that.
with no R, with no E, like ELDR, Elder. Just put this in a young whippersnapper will come over and figure out what's going on.
I feel like you've already been working on this idea. That's kind of scary. You came up with it too quick.
We need more. We need more ways to con the elderly. They don't get conned enough.
I feel like I think I saw a movie. It was I don't know, a dime a dozen, like maybe a Hulu or Netflix, one of these things that they just crank out. And I want to say it was like an app for older people, and it would connect you with anybody in a remote location. They're just like, oh yeah, what can I do for you today? Leonard, he's just like, oh, I can't find my thing. It'd just be like somebody that the person talks to it. They help them out over the phone, and so it's like one of those things. I feel like that was a concept in one of those like kind of shitty made for like right to streaming movies or whatever. But
it certainly could be.
But yeah, maybe I should hop in on some of that action.
I'm still at home nursing this virus. I've got my Pot of Thunder Halloween season mug filled with
I love that mug.
tea that I cannot smell at all. That I can tell like it's wild sweet orange tea, and it's got spices, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be nice and warming. And I opened the tea bag and I took a big whiff. It might as well have just been a piece of paper in there. Nothing at all. But I think I can. Let's see if I can taste. Oh yeah. Oh, it's actually kind of sour. That's good. And I've got my family just got back from our vacation that I was supposed to go on, but was too sick to go on. So I got some cider donuts.
There you go.
So yeah.
Wait, can you taste those?
No, let me try. People love when I eat on the show. Yeah, I can taste those. Those are cinnamony and delicious.
All right, there you go. So apparently your nostrils are not working, but everything else is fine. We'll get to the bottom of this.
Firing this nasal spray up my nostrils twice a day.
Yeah.
Like one of my nostrils is so clogged though, you're supposed to inhale. So I'm like, and it just like leaks all out. I'm like, what I don't know what to do in that case. Unless I get like a neti pot and just be like the neti pot lady with ooh.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this thing goes away soon. You and Rich, neither one of you guys is getting better, and I can't afford to lose both of you because then I'll have no friends.
No, this is a week now. It's been a straight week of just feeling absolutely lousy. So I'm going back to work tomorrow, like I told you before the show, because I'm like, well, God damn it, I can't just continue to burn through all my PTO. I'm like, I'm gonna go back to work tomorrow and hope for the best, but I'm gonna be dragging big time. This is a real bummer, but
good luck.
Hey, what are you gonna do? Hey, if you want to help support the show, if you all of your proceeds are going to go towards
Nate's medical bills,
cold medicine. Yeah, I'm almost out of all of my cough medicine and cold medicine and everything, but if you want to support the show, you can do so a number of ways. One is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We will use the mystery percussion instrument that John can no longer hear, the vibroslap that broke the our audio connection to the point that all percussion instruments are now
no longer a mystery. Now it's just it's a mystery to me. I don't know what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, you know what a vibroslap sounds like.
Yeah, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it over there.
You want to hear it.
I don't know what yours sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like every other vibroslap you've ever heard. just imagine this. Just Can you hear that part?
Well, yeah, I heard I.
Okay, that's good. But you still didn't hear the vibroslap.
Nope.
I wonder if I talked. What if I talk and do the vibroslap at the same time?
All right.
All right, John. Well, I'm going to be talking to you about this stuff here.
Yeah, I do.
Did that work?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Well, there you go. We found a workaround.
We cracked the code.
Whatever weird audio algorithm is working. But I'll still do it the normal way for when we get our next 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, because you're not doing it for me. You're doing it for whoever leaves the review. So
we're doing it for all the other people, not just you. But you can become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Help support the show. Help us buy new albums. Help me buy cough medicine. Help put it towards the new computer fund. All that great stuff. And you can also donate on Cash App to $DPPOD. Great ways to support the show. So speaking of people that would support our show, we get some great people. Like our executive level patrons at the $25 Uncommon Man tier. We have Ovis Nakvi and Purple Maniac. At the £10 tier, Dr. Jill Brees. At the turn it up to $11 tier, Clay Wambacher, Frank Teelgard Mortensen, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and Mikkel Steen. And at the $10 Someone Came tier, Ryan M, Jeff Bryce, Victor Compost, Better Call Saul Evans, Kev Roberts and his wonderful children, Matthew, Gareth, and Sarah. And then, of course, at the $9.99 What's Going On Here tier, Mr. Richard Fusey. So thank you so much to all of you for your generous support. You can also check out deepdivepodcastnetwork.com for a host of other great podcasts that dive into single bands just like we do, and take them either one track at a time, one album at a time, one topic at a time, you name it. Some great shows there, so check it out and follow them on Twitter. What is it? Deep Dive Podnet? Deep Dive Podnet, we'll call it, on Twitter. All right. So John, here we are today talking about, can you believe it, only after this we'll only have one Gillan album left, studio album anyway.
Well, I can't believe that we've done so much, so many Gillan episodes. I think
Yeah.
that should keep everybody satisfied that's calling this an Aussie cast.
Yeah, this is just this is just a makeup for the Aussie episode.
For the almost 3-hour Aussie episode.
I think we have to just really pack in the Deep Purple top subject matter on both sides of an Aussie episode once a year when we do one. Just so that so everyone can have that little time to get reacquainted. But so what do you know about this album?
You know, I was looking it up because as you know, I'm not as familiar with all of the Gillan albums because I didn't grow up with them or was really more of a Deep Purple proper, and then I discovered all these later. But I guess at the time they weren't really widely available. So I looked over the track listing to see like, okay, what's on this, and I don't think I really know it really much at all. Yeah, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I know I'll rip your spine out and restless, but I'm not sure that I'm familiar with the rest of the, or as familiar with the rest of the album. So
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm probably in the same boat. Whereas we talked about in previous episodes, but the whole Ian Gillan band whole thing is kind of a mess. And the way it was released in the States, there's all these compilations and rarity albums and all that sort of stuff. And then Gillan will dig up some of this material and do it on some of his more recent live stuff. And he did stuff in Gillan's Inn. So all of this stuff is kind of scattered throughout his entire discography. So it's one of those things that this was an album that wasn't readily available to me and I didn't get until much later.
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be some songs that jump out at me as like, oh, of course, this song that I've heard on some compilation or other. But yeah, I don't have like that immediate familiarity with it. But
Well, I think that's the thing too, is with a lot of the Deep Purple family being in and out of Deep Purple or different projects in between their own band or having different incarnations of their own band. And then, like you said, they're being not as available maybe in the United States or just being released like alternate releases or whatever. It's just like it's almost, even now you would have to like sit down and make a chart to like track, okay, this is like the Gillan discography and that's it, and not counting anything else. So it's still like very confusing to me. I mean, admittedly, I've never tried, and I mean, with the amount of albums that he has under the name Gillan, it was probably just easy. But in terms of knowing it,
it's super confusing. I mean, when you had that like Japanese release of the first album, and
yeah,
then some of those songs were on the first album that got released elsewhere, but some of them weren't, and you had all these. It's really like a complete mess. And like I remember on one of our episodes, I think it was the Gillan. It must have been it might have been Mr. Universe, where I had to make like a chart on the show notes to just be like, okay, well, this song was on the Japanese Gillan album, but this song is on Mr. Universe, because the Mr. Universe album that I think most folks grew up hearing is different than the one we reviewed, which was the Japanese one. But had we reviewed the one that everyone was used to, we would have had to redo a bunch of songs we had just done on the Japanese album. So very, very confusing discography. And yeah, it's just kind of a head scratcher as to why it was so kind of haphazardly rolled out like that. And then they've got this Ian Gillan band stuff. They released this thing that was like called Clear Air Turbulence, but it like looked different. And I was like, oh, cool. And I picked that up years ago. And I'm like, it's like the songs from Clear Air Turbulence in a different order and then a bunch of other random stuff. Like I think it's a 2-disc set too, like
Right.
random songs from Scarabus and live songs. And I'm like, what even is this? Like it's, I mean, it's really nicely packaged and everything, but it just doesn't really make any sense as a product.
Well, I think that's just kind of a Deep Purple problem, so to speak, because I mean, we've talked about it before, where for years I thought the Butterfly Ball and the Grasshopper's Feast was just all one album, but the way they worded it and everything, and it was on one disc, or White Snake, North Winds. It's like, okay,
Oh,
is
you
it?
mean like when they put the Wizards convention stuff on the
Yeah,
Butterfly Ball? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. When they released like the CDs and stuff, it was. I mean, the original. I mean, we weren't around for the original releases, so or we were too young for them. So things like that, or like the two Coverdale solo albums, or just a pick anything and just name it. And it's like that's why it's so hard to follow. It's been so hard to follow some of these things. It's probably why I haven't. It's taken so long to get into some of the discographies. Like Whitesnake is a great example. Like I didn't even know until recent years what the proper discography was, starting from his solo albums and then him kind of transitioning it into Whitesnake, and then all the way through to now. So it's
Yeah,
like
well, David Coverdale's been every bit as confusing as Gillan, because he's got
right.
the David Coverdale stuff. Then he's got he's got an album called Whitesnake that's not a Whitesnake album, which is
Right.
super confusing. Then he's got David Coverdale solo. Then he's got these Whitesnake albums. Then he's got Whitesnake albums that are actually David Coverdale solo albums that are, you just kind of like, you got to kind of know, like, well, wink wink, it's Whitesnake. Then he does the solo album that's, a David Coverdale solo album again. So it's very, yeah, it's just kind of all over the place. And he does like a Whitesnake album, the live album with Adrian Vandenberg, which is just the two of them, but they call it
Right.
Whitesnake, which it's
Yeah.
anyway.
So I
Um,
feel like this is kind of almost kind of the same thing, although you could say uh Ian Gillan, Ian Gillan band, Gillan. It's like, okay, like I know that those are like three different things. And to his credit, they are slightly different styles of music, because he is pretty diverse. So I
oh,
mean, I
he
will
is.
give him that. Is like the Ian Gillan band stuff was more jazzy, and Gillan was more heavy. So
Yeah, and it's kind of second nature to us now, but you can imagine, like, for people that are really like super into this stuff, like you can make those distinctions, but from a marketing standpoint to the public, it
hmm.
seems uh, like an absolute marketing and branding disaster to have Ian Gillan Band, and Gillan be three different things,
And then by the time he
all
got
with the same guy singing.
and by the time he got to Garth Rocket, they were probably just like, all right, I'm done.
Oh, you're doing another one now. What's this one going to be called? Garth Rocket. Okay, well, at least it's a completely out of nowhere, but of course it's, Garth Rocket, and he's doing Gillan songs.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's great. You got to love it. So leading up to this album, there were tensions beginning to grow in the band. The band was all taking like an equal split of the money, but Gillan felt, I guess, that wasn't, that he was the one that was taking all the risk with his name and him being kind of the financier behind it. So he wasn't crazy about this arrangement, although he must have presented it. So they were scheduled to fly back from shows they were performing. I think it was in Germany, to appear on Top of the Pops. But taking a page from one of Gillan's previous guitar players, Bernie refused.
He
Um,
took a page from the Book of Ritchie.
The Book of Ritchie, yep, the Man in Black himself. So he didn't want to do it. The rest of the band, I guess, weren't happy about doing it either. I guess they all wanted to stay on the road. It's kind of glossed over in his most of this comes from the Child in Time Ian Gillan book, and then some of it comes from interviews with Bernie Torme. But there's not like a ton about it, and there doesn't appear to be like any real hard feelings. But I think they were just probably, they were on tour together. They were being a little pissy with each other. He's like, he didn't want to do it, so Gillan's like, hey, ultimatum, you're either in this car at this time to go to the airport to go to Top of the Pops, or you're not in the band anymore. So time comes, Bernie's not in the car, the four other guys fly in, and then he ends up calling Gillan afterwards, Bernie does, and is like, hey, like, what's going on? He's like, well, we did it without you because I told you to be in the car and you weren't. And he's like, well, that sucks. And that's kind of it. It doesn't, again, it wasn't like some big blowout or anything, but it was just kind of like, I guess he had it. He didn't feel like he was getting paid the money that he deserves. I think he said he was like 45 pounds a week or something that he was making. Um, uh, so then he calls up Phil Banfield, his manager, Gillan does, and asks him to find a guitar player, specifically Yannick, because they had been playing with Yannick Gers and I almost wanted to say, I almost said White Lion, the band White Spirit, not White Lion, or White Snake or Great White, but White Spirit. He must have liked what, they were opening for Gillan, so he must have liked what he heard, and that was that. He joined the band. Bernie said in an interview about the argument over the Top of the Pops. He says, I really regret how I did it. I shouldn't have done it that way. It was terrible. It was terribly negative, and I love all of them. And again, like I said, like Gillan in his book doesn't trash Bernie in any way. He doesn't, there's none of the vitriol and things that he spews at Blackmore or anybody else. It's just kind of like, hey, we were ticked off. It seems like they were kind of annoyed with each other, and then they just went their separate ways. So there you have it. So we've got a new guitar player in the band, Yannick Gers, who I think I'm pronouncing right. I've always thought him as Yannick, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Jonathan said Yannick maybe, but I don't know. I've always assumed Yannick, but not being like a huge Maiden guy, I don't really know. So yeah, and then you've still got obviously John McCoy on bass, Mick Underwood on drums, Colin Towns on keyboards, and then Ian Gillan on vocals. Engineering done by Paul Chaz Watkins, produced by Steve Smith. Steve Smith worked with Bob Marley and the Wailers. Remember that old story of Ian Gillan shooting pool with Bob Marley?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Clear Turbulence or Scarabus? One of those, because they were both on island together. Then Robert Palmer, Supertramp, and he also worked with Toots and the Maytals. Like that one. Toots.
Hey, Toots.
Remember Dave's girlfriend, Toots?
Yeah. No, the way you said it was so funny because you sound like my dad. You're just like, remember? You remember?
Remember?
It's like every time he talks to me, hey, John, you remember? Like, what is it going to be this time?
Well, we had a friend, our friend Dave,
yeah,
his girlfriend at the time her name was not Toots, but he called her Toots, and we just thought it was hilarious because he wasn't a gangster from the 20s. He'd be like, come on, Toots, we're going out of here. So we just all called her Toots. And to this day, like, I think if I ran into her on the street, I'd be like, Toots, what's going on?
Like, actually, my name is whatever.
I bet most people don't remember her actual name.
I don't.
May be good, maybe best for her. But she was great, Miss Toots. And then what else? Who else we got here? Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this album was conceived to be a studio album paired up with a live album, so it's a double album. We're just gonna do the studio version. The album version was using the Stones, the Rolling Stones mobile unit.
Oof, that was a mouthful.
The Rubble Stones, the Rubble Stones, or Rubble.
Yeah, that was that's what they called it on the Flintstones.
Hey, Bond, you got that mobile unit?
You got that mobile rock unit, Bond?
Yeah, it's like a peacock, like listening to it and then like writing it down on a tablet. Like, no, I've seen everything. It's a living.
They have a pterodactyl that's like moving the reels around. It's a living.
a woolly mammoth is just like, just transporting it around. But
they plug his snout in, the amp. It's a living.
so that's the Rolling Stones mobile unit part of it, but we're not going to get into that, at least today. Maybe we'll do it some other time. But then we've got the album art. So to get into that,
I don't think I'm familiar with this, really.
No.
Well, let's see. Maybe I am. I don't know.
Double Trouble. There you go. There's the
Oh, okay. I've kind of seen it.
yeah. So you've got the man's rear end from the back on the corner with a Gillan patch on his butt cheek. Nobody put a patch on their butt, did they? Like that, like on the pocket of their jeans.
I'm gonna say maybe. I mean,
Sure, somebody did.
I'm not gonna rule anything out. I think I used to see, and sometimes still do see, some of these old school metal guys with patches on their jackets, but usually I see like either a wallet chain or the bandana, the colored bandana hanging out of the back pocket.
Some people have like the really long jacket to accommodate all the extra back patches that they have.
But I mean, I very rarely. I mean, you'll mostly see it at like concerts and stuff. Like if you go see some of the 80s bands that are still around playing.
That's where White Lion would come into play. If you went to a White Lion show, I guarantee you, they probably wouldn't let you in without back patches. Sorry, you only have 14 back patches. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, where's your street cred?
So then we've got the man is bearing down on these two ladies of the night who are standing on these like bollards that are sticking out of the ground, and I guess that's the double trouble that they refer to. They look like all dressed up.
They look like trouble.
They look like double trouble.
Well, look at the one over on the one on the left here. She's basically, her shirt is open, and there's the only thing that's covering her boobs is the two sides of the shirt there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you don't really. It sounds more revealing than it is if you're looking at it. There's really.
Yeah, but how does everything stay in place with the shirt like that? It's just like it goes all the way down to the navel, like kind of Ritchie style.
Yeah, she looks like she borrowed it from Ritchie. Ritchie like finished up on stage with like a Jolin Turner era Rainbow, and she just snatched it right off the stage. I'm gonna go meet Ian Gillan across town. But yeah, she got the leather mini skirt, the black stockings, and the black boots, and then the other one's got the dress with the holes going all the way up from the leg all the way up to the chest. I'm sure there's like some technical name for what that is. Lots of jewelry. But yeah, so they're in like a dark alley, so it looks pretty sketchy.
Is that looks like the Washington Monument behind that other, like, behind the one with the red mini skirt?
It does.
What is that?
Well,
is it like a rocket?
No, it's got to be like a it like does look like it's off in the distance, but it's got to be like a telephone pole or something, because it has like a number on it.
Yeah, but like if you look at it really quick, you're like, is that the Washington Monument?
They're like, come on, Gillan. We're gonna take you on a late night tour of DC and show you some historic locations. This is
first up, the most phallic of them all.
And here's where James Madison used to buy his quills.
By the way, extra points for knowing off the top of your head the name of those things that they're leaning against, because I just would have said those things sticking out of the ground.
I've had to have them installed at work before.
Oh, what do you call them?
Bollards.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have.
I wonder if that's if that translates into into our UK peeps, if that's like the same way. It sounds like more like it would be the UK name for it, and we'd call them like, I don't know, stone things or some dumb American thing.
Well, it sounds like
maybe
bollard sounds like something that somebody would say, like bollocks. Like if they're upset, it's like, bollards.
Bollards.
God damn it, bollards.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know what that is, it's like it's a usually made of concrete, super solid thing that's like goes deep into the ground to prevent if a truck didn't have its parking, you put it around something you want to protect, basically. So you'd have it in front of a window or in front of a doorway or in front of a building that where you're expecting a lot of activity, particularly vehicles. So if one of them like left their parking brake off or something and ran forward, these would stop it from going in, smashing into your windows or doing any damage like that.
Right.
So you see them outside and inside sometimes. And in the UK and Europe, they have like the really decorative ones that are like, like metal and they're black and kind of ornate. And in the United States, it's usually just like a spray painted yellow, like whoop, just little nubbins sticking out of the ground. It's painted yellow, probably to get people's attention. Probably some OSHA thing. Who knows?
Well, this this cover is it's not bad. I think it's very 80s. Very kind of it looks like, definitely looks like a rock album cover. It makes me think like it could have been like a Scorpions album cover around that time period.
Oh, because of the close up on the jeans and the ass.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of that too, but also
If
it's
there was just a dog sticking up there staring at his crotch.
but the only thing I mean, it's pretty obvious. You kind of nailed it. It's just the two girls there. It's, oh, double trouble. And the point of view is like the guy is walking up to him and he's like, all right, here we go. Double trouble. Like, what's
Here we
gonna
go.
happen?
I'm gonna score with two ladies.
I'm gonna score with these two broads and probably in this brothel over here, or whatever that is. That building to the right is probably a brothel or a public toilet or turlet, as it may be. We're not very highbrow here, but the only thing I don't like about the album is the expression on the two women's faces. Is, if they're supposed to be double trouble, they don't look mischievous enough. They just kind of look like they're posing like, all right, say cheese, and they're like, you know what I mean?
That's
It's
probably
like,
what it was. It was probably either like leftovers from some other photo shoot,
yeah,
or knowing what we've learned about the various album covers over the years, they might have taken this picture for something else and said, do we still have the picture of the two chicks in the alley? Find that one.
yeah. I mean,
Rather than specifically staged for this, and then they just superimposed the jean leg over it.
right, which I mean is completely possible. I mean, they almost certainly like cut and pasted the gene leg there. You don't think there was a photographer standing behind like a guy's ass cheek and being like, all right, let me all right, hang on. And then but I think that if they did take this picture for the album, of at least of the two girls, I think that for the album being called Double Trouble, they could have had a little bit more. The photographer could have directed them to look a little more mischievous. Like, the poses are good. The poses are like, you have one that's kind of like standing her ground with their fist down, and the other one just one leg up, kind of leaning back, like,
Yeah.
But they just kind of look like they're posing. They don't like have like a kind of look on their faces, or a cocked eyebrow or something like, yeah, we're double trouble. They're just kind of like, here we are.
Yeah, it's a little unremarkable. So this design was done by Jean-Luc Epstein, which is funny. It's Jean-Luc, but like usually Jean-Luc is Jean-Luc. This is Luke, like Luke Skywalker. So Jean-Luc Epstein.
All right.
He did work for the Kinks, Kool and the Gang. Jimmy Page sadly passed away in 2017. The sleeve and artwork by Lol Sanford. Lol, like laugh out loud Sanford. They both worked for this company called Graphic, Graphyk. Did a bunch of other album covers. Photography by Mick Gregory. And there's a ton of, we'll get into the gatefold in a second, but there's a ton of great photographs in there. He worked with Samson, Bernie Torme, and he got credit for the Perfect Strangers album art. So he must have been the guy following Ritchie around on a bicycle as he has a picnic with some elderly people, all those weird pictures that are in Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
And then Nico Preston, he worked on this album and Gary Moore album. And then John Prue, he's credited with Split Ends, UB40, and Rory Gallagher for our good friend Mark Roback over there. So that's the front cover. The interior gatefold here, you've got, it looks again like I forgot what it was. It might have been Glory Road. It's probably Glory Road, where they had similar kind of handwritten lyrics. So you've got all these like live shots. I wonder if they just pulled the old trick and got a live shot of Yannick with his old band, if he had even played with Gillan live yet at that point. Although I think he had. I think he had finished like the tour or whatever. And then some more pictures on the other side. Gillan on the congas. You got John McCoy in the center, and the kind of a better known picture of Gillan holding the mic and doing his little, like, I don't even know what you call that thing he does, where it looks like he's gonna like beat somebody in the head with the microphone when it's on the microphone stand. He's like leaning kind of forward. But yeah, that's the album art. You get the label here with the two ladies, like a little bit of a close up. Looks like they're wearing the same thing, but
But
it's another one where,
the one on the right looks like she's got a different expression. She's like,
yeah,
"Arr."
they look a little bit more like Trouble in that picture.
I don't know the one on the, I don't know what the one on the right is looking like, but it's not trouble.
No,
She looks confused.
could be a little bit.
I don't know.
Sometimes when you're confused, that's when the worst trouble of all starts.
Hmm.
There's another picture of it. That's the side 3 and 4, and that's pretty much it for the another copy of the album cover. Oh, and then this was in there, which is a close up from the album cover of the two ladies, and it's the double album of 1981. A little advertisement from Virgin Records.
Well, that's a nice kind of play on words thing. Double trouble, a double album, two broads. You know,
That was the working title for the album, Two Broads. Yeah, they opted to go with Double Trouble.
Ian Gillan, two broads.
That was a Frank Sinatra album. Hey, here's the cover. What should we call it? How about Two Broads? Oh boy,
Such a silly name. Such a silly thing to call women. Like, hey, look at that broad.
yeah. What's the etymology of that? We'll have to when we do our spin-off podcast, Bollard Cast. We'll have to explore where the etymology of the word broads.
And how many episodes have we like joked around and been like, "Hey, broads," and for some reason it's just really funny tonight. I don't know why.
I'm trying to see. Let's see.
Oh.
It's in Germanic and Old English. It's broad. Old English related to Dutch breed and German breed. Broad, wide. Well, wide. Yeah, we know it means wide. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll
Oh, here's a good article. Why are women called sluts, dames, and broads? I'm gonna read that while we're listening to the album, and I'll report back.
Link that in the show notes.
Why are women called sluts, dames, and broads? No, why are you calling women that? Women should not be called that. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
It's like, why do they call them that? It's a great article. It's from 2012. It was a different time. Why are they called dames?
Yeah.
Why are they called pieces of skirt? Hey,
the skirts. Hey, the skirt's cramping my style.
Oh boy. All right. So before we move on to the actual album itself, we have to do one thing, and that is to, of course, thank our core level patrons. Coming in at the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, we have Michael Vader. At the $6.99 New Nice Price tier, we have Fielding Fowler. At the episode $6.66 tier, Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, and Anton Glaving. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, Kenny Wymore. At the $5.99 Nice Price tier, Robert Smith, Peter from Illinois, Michael Bagford, and Carl Hellberg. And at the $5 Moneylender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Elman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikoff, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Will Porter, Zwapper the Electric Alchemist, Percival Frequency, and Scott Zerns. Thank you so much to you.
Why are you laughing?
I realized there was like a little fly buzzing around, and I was trying to shoo it away and grab it, and I was wondering, I was like, I don't know if that came up on the video. So somebody's gonna just see me wigging out, going like this while I'm reading names.
You know, I was talking about that with somebody at work earlier because they was talking about floaters. Like, do you see a lot of floaters and yeah, you know, floaties?
What's a floaty?
Well, you have glasses, so you probably don't see them a lot. But it's when as your eyes get older, you see a lot of kind of like dark shapes, kind of drifting around in front of your eyes.
Oh, like sometimes like you'll see like the little like patterns that a light took or whatever, like when
you
close your eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So sometimes, and I mean that's a kind of a thing that happens as you get older, and it has to do with I don't know, something detaching from your eyes or whatever. But they were talking about like, oh, you see floaties or floaters all the time. I'm like, yeah, I do. Depends on the day, because sometimes when your eyes are tired, you see them more, and sometimes it looks like a little fly buzzing around, and sometimes it is. So I'm like, yeah. So sometimes I'm going like this, and I don't know if I look like I'm insane because if there's no fly there, then I'm swatting at nothing.
Well,
Because
even if there's a fly, they'd have to see it.
no, but sometimes I'll wig out and people will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like I thought I was swatting a fly, but it's just my failing eyesight."
Yeah, and John needs his itch eye drops or twitchy eye drops, I guess.
Did you see the thing? I was looking at the picture today of the guy. He got the glasses up here and he's going, "Ugh."
That's what it feels like. It's just like, make this stop.
Oh.
All right, so let's bust out these tracks.
Yeah, let's.
So this one must start with a ballad. The first song is called "I'll Rip Your Spine Out." But I would say, like, right off the bat, the drum sound is very weak.
Yeah, it sounds very distant.
For what is a really cool little drum opening there, it's just not in your face at all. It sounds way in the back.
Yeah. Not a lot of oomph to it.
I don't think they have like the overhead mics, but nothing else is close mic'd. Referencing your favorite song there?
Nope, I didn't hear it.
Nice Gillan scream. Watch, we're gonna hear one with like, damn, we should have had that in our last episode.
Right. The production, when you hear it overall, even with the drums and everything, it's got this kind of actually a cool kind of lo-fi sound to it.
Yeah.
Kind of makes it sound like a kind of a early 80s punkish kind of sound.
Thought it was a guitar at first, but then it started doing that pitch wheel stuff. I forgot to mention this is written by Gillan, McCoy, and Underwood. Like a proper organ there. Don't hear a lot of that from Colin.
Yeah. It's a really cool verse.
Yeah, I like that
It's got a good
immigrant
groove to it.
Immigrant song-esque rhythm that he's doing on the bass. Which is, you know why he's not hitting that octave. He's staying on the one note, because otherwise it'd be bad territory there.
Even Gillan's voice sounds a little different.
It does. It's an interesting sound for him.
I don't know if it's the way he's singing or the production or a little bit of both.
like those toms sound. So when he's hitting the toms, it was almost like they just went away. Are you hearing that too? Because I'm like
They
now
went
I'm like, am I
away.
just are my ears just clogged up from my sinuses?
Maybe.
Are you hearing it okay? Like the drums? Like do they sound distant to you?
Yeah, but I mean, production distant, not like there's a
Right.
problem with the volume or anything.
Yeah, like I hear everything else fine. I hear you fine. But all right, John, what do you think of I'll Rip Out Your Spine? It's just a funny
Very
title always
aggressive.
gets me. Very aggressive title.
I'll
Yeah.
rip you. You mean I'll rip your spine out?
I'm sorry.
I'll,
I'll rip
I'll
your spine
rip
out.
out just that. I think that was a horror movie. I'll rip out your
spine.
spine. 3. Spine Ripper returns.
I can't see that. I haven't seen the first two.
Well, spoiler alert. Somebody gets their spine ripped out.
Or attempts to.
Yeah, this was I feel like this, I definitely don't think I've heard this one before because it's not ringing any bells. I will give it a 3. I thought it was pretty good. There is something endearing about the kind of the low quality production sound. I feel at this point it would be almost on purpose, because there's no way that Gillan would be like, I don't have enough money to make an album that sounds good.
It's being done at his studio. I mean, the only thing that's different is I think is the producer. I don't think he had worked with that producer before, unless I'm mistaken.
Right. I mean, it would be nice if the sound was beefed up a little bit, the low end, the rhythm section, but it was a really cool song, and there was something different about the pitch and the timbre of Gillan's vocals in this one, which was I mean, around this time it was kind of a couple of years before he went into Sabbath, and a couple of years after his other stuff. So I don't know if there was a weird kind of space that he was in, or if he was just trying to do his vocals a little different. But either way, it was cool. It didn't sound bad at all.
Yeah.
But middle of the road, I think, type of song.
Yeah, I put it a little more middle of the road at a 2.5, dead center middle of the road. I feel like, I mean, if you're judging this song on an island, maybe it's just a sequencing thing and it would work better. But to me, it seems a little bit weak as an album opener. Like it's not really. It almost sounds like a way to close out the side. The ending of it was just kind of ambling and just didn't seem to go anywhere for the last, like, I don't know, 45 seconds or so.
Well, I think if the drums were really, I mean, let's talk about that. If they were really amped up, if they were really big drums, if the rhythm section was really kicking, then maybe this would have been a good opener. So
yeah, I mean, I just can't get over how you could have an album open with the I mean, the last 2 albums we reviewed on the show were Diary of a Madman and Mind Transplant. So you had opening like Over the Mountain, which was like in your face, and then you've got a jazz fusion drummer. So with this, like, so you had very drum forward albums, and for this one, it just seemed to me like what Underwood's playing was awesome. What he was playing was great, but it just was kind of like, I want to hear it. I want it to be up front. I want it to, even if maybe it has to, maybe where it was in the mix worked for the rest of the song, but for the intro at least, like just kick it up, or throw some mics on the drums themselves. I mean, usually when you're miking drums, you've got overhead mics at a distance to catch some of that room sound, and then you've got your close-up mics, not necessarily on every drum, but something close up to catch the stuff. It just didn't even sound like the snare and the toms were mic'd. It sounded like they were just catching them from the distance mics, and I don't know, it's just kind of a bummer. I could let all that stuff go, but the song in particular didn't really do too much for me, especially as an album opener, and especially called I'll Rip Your Spine Out, where you're expecting to get your ass kicked. I'm expecting something like, something a little bit harder. But anyway. Okay, next up we have the second track, Restless. I feel like the snare is a little bit poppier on this one.
got a very like garage band rock kind of sound to it.
Yeah. Which I could get into.
But then immediately it's a Gillan song once he starts singing, unmistakable.
Yep. Wow, that was unexpected.
Yeah, really. Kind of a poppy pre-chorus.
I like it. But that like second chord that he hits there in that verse is really like kind of dark sounding almost. It's like poppy, but it's got this darkness to it.
Yeah, really interesting song so far. It's a really interesting part here. Catchy.
Yeah, I like that solo. He's doing it on the keyboard. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure like that level of screaming is necessary on this song.
I mean, I'm never going to complain about when Gillan screams.
No.
So. It's really good, cool chord changes, though. I really like them.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you hear every day.
Just throws me off because it sounds kind of dissonant, and then the verses all sounds poppy and happy, and then
it's kind of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, then the chorus has this kind of, I don't know, a different kind of poppy feel to it. It's it was a really weird song in a good way.
That one
Interesting sounding.
Gillan and McCoy. So how would you rank that one?
I liked it. I'll give it a 3. I said everything that I thought about it while it was going on. It was really interesting, but I really liked I feel if it went down the predictable road with those chord changes in the before the verse, it would have who knows, but I mean this is Gillan, so he's always throwing a curveball somewhere.
Yeah, it was it was kind of like all over the map as far as what it from a tone standpoint. I would give it a 3 too. I did like it, and it was really interesting. It just never goes the direction that you're thinking it's going to go. It's got this really like dee dee dee, this really like kind of happy poppy things, and it's like Jimmy, he's like losing his mind, which I don't. Again, far be it from me to ever complain about a Gillan scream, but that one was a little bit like I don't know if this is the song for that. Because it didn't have that I don't know that level of passion you'd really need from a Gillan scream, but hey, any Gillan scream is a good scream as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next track up on side 1 of this album is called Men of War. Bring it down a little bit here. This one's for all the ladies out there.
Particularly the two standing out in front of the brothel that I'm looking at with the patch on my ass.
We didn't let him in the studio. They're still out there. Wow. I like that. This is another Gillan McCoy number. What? It's a fires you're gonna stoke, and you're like, so far, I mean, I think this album has like a very...
It's a different feel to it. It's a lot different
like,
than the other Gillan albums that we've heard so far.
It's totally different. It almost feels like it's like a, dare I say, like new wavy almost.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what he was going for.
And I don't mean new wave of British heavy metal, which is what you'd expect. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't follow Future Shock what I would expect at all. But it sounds very of its time. Like this sounds like 81.
Wonder if maybe this is the first album with Yannick, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the addition of that new guitar player. Maybe that had something to, I mean, it definitely had something to do with the sound, because you're not hearing a Bernie Torme sound in here. Obviously, that's distinctive, very distinct. I mean, obviously the keyboards, you can't get away from that. I mean, this sounds like typical Gillan band keyboards.
Yep.
But yeah, the songs, the production, the directions they go in, it's very different direction. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's something that's really stands on its own. And I can imagine, and we'll get into reviews later, but I can imagine this is probably not what people are looking for from Gillan. Which tends to be the albums I enjoy the most. Doing those like really deep throaty screams too. Like, almost as low as he can go and still scream.
Well, this is kind of where he was when he was doing Born Again with his vocals.
Yeah,
so maybe maybe this was the beginning of that. For him kind of exploring that territory.
What track did you bring from Born Again last week? Hotline?
Digital Bitch.
Digital Bitch, I'm sorry. And I'm kind of feeling confident in saying now, 3 songs in, that I don't know if I've heard any of this before.
Same, yeah, the same.
Like, which is weird because that's not the case with, and this sometimes comes down to just being in the U.S. Some stuff just didn't make it over here as readily as other stuff did. But like everything else from Gillan, there's been a few albums where I'm like, this track sounds a little bit unfamiliar. Oh yeah, I've heard this one a million times from some you can't even remember where you heard it from. But with this one so far, it's all kind of sounding new to me.
Yeah, I mean, usually we've at least heard something that was on the US or the Japanese version or whatever on a different album, or if something was on a compilation. I mean, I'll be surprised if we get through the whole thing and I honestly haven't heard anything.
Yeah, and maybe I have, but if I have, it's been once or twice years ago and completely forgot about it. Nothing that's resonating with me. But all right, what do you think of Men of War?
Another three. Um, I think it's another really interesting song. I really like the that melody that runs throughout it. The dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, I love the way that Gillan is exploring those vocals. Just I just love around this era where he's being so over the top with
Yeah.
his screaming, and not. I mean, there's something to be said for being sparing with it, but it's also great when he just uses it so much, because it's not one of those things where sometimes if you have kind of a shtick like that, it's like, all right, use it sparingly. Otherwise, it's like, all right, it's too much. But I don't know, when it's Gillan, he can do it through the whole album and you don't get sick of it.
Yeah, he's got a weird special he's got carte blanche when it comes to that. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Honestly, I almost toyed with the idea of giving it a 4 because I can tell it's one of those songs that if I listen to this album on repeat, like if I listen to it 2, 3, 4, 5, by the fourth, fifth time, this is the one that's going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, I really like that song. But I didn't want to give it a 4, predicting that in the future I'd want to give it a 4. So I'm giving it an honest rating for what I think right now, but I really like it. And I think while maybe our scores aren't the highest so far, and it's not looking like it's gonna rank super high, but what I do really like about this album is that they're trying something new, and I would always prefer a band doing that to just trying to rehash their old stuff, or trying to like again Deep Purple just trying to make Machine Head again 20 times over the past 50 years. Like they've had their ups, they've had their downs, but at least they've always been trying different things. Maybe there's some formulas they throw in there, but they're not just trying to rehash and cash in on what worked before. They're trying different stuff, and that's what I like about it.
Right. I mean, how interesting would it be if they were just like, okay, here's Son of Future Shock,
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
like that.
And this certainly is not that. So okay. Next track up is called Sunbeam. The ride cymbal sounds great. The rest of this kit sounds so far away. I'm gonna listen
really
when I'm over this virus. I'm gonna be like, now I hear it. I'm gonna have to go re-rank everything.
Really interesting guitar lines.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an interesting guitar lines at the beginning of the song, and then it goes into this really kind of slick verse. But this is a very simple but catchy kind of guitar line here.
It almost sounds like Day Tripper, like reworked. Like kind of hits the same beats.
Always comes back to the Beatles with you, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm just kidding.
What? I thought that was a Whitesnake song.
Oh, that's cool. How his vocals kind of faded off into the distance.
It is kind of interesting, guys. There's like 3 vocals come in one after another.
Yeah.
Or maybe just 2.
I think these are so far these are great songs, and he sounds really good.
Oh yeah. Keyboard flourishes there in the right channel. Just don't go into that riff in the background.
You know, the guitar solo really was reminding me of something, and I'm like, what
Yeah,
is that?
I was thinking the same thing.
But now that I hear the outro solo, it kind of sounds almost like he's mimicking Ritchie.
Yeah, I could
Like
see
little
that.
little hints of it, not like a rip off or copying
Just
him or anything like that, but very reminiscent of.
those little like falling down the stairs things like we talked about before, you know.
I love it when you do. I don't know how you do that so effortlessly. You just like I can't. It just sounds like I have like rocks falling out of my mouth. But, but it's but yeah, it's very and I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it definitely fit in with the song.
Yeah, it's that kind of like pentatonic, but throwing it into throwing in some minor notes here and there to kind of
Yeah.
make it a little more mysterious, a little more sneaky that I think he's doing. That's kind of reminiscent in the way he's doing his little hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff. Yeah, I could see the Ritchie comparison for sure. That one was written by Gillan, Gears, McCoy, and Underwood. Sunbeam. What do you think of that one?
I really liked it. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I would definitely I'm giving it that extra half because I would listen to it again.
Yeah. I
Like
think this
each song is like delivering something new. Like I'm thinking like, okay, and watch, probably the next song will be watch, this next song will be a filler track. So I'm expecting, all right, where's the filler track or the one that's going to be like, but so far everything that's coming up is just offering something so far that's very interesting and catchy.
Yeah, I will see your 3.5 on this one. It was, again, non-traditional, interesting, outside the box songwriting. Production's really the only thing I have a major issue with so far. It just see and it's like everything sounds good. It just doesn't sound like it's upfront enough.
Well, see it, and I know we're only a few songs in, but for maybe half of that first song, I had a problem with it. But now I just think that given the era
Yeah.
and the number of albums that he had, I'm starting to think that sometimes bands will purposely have an album sound lo-fi. And I mean, it could be a case of just like Born Again is like, oh, we didn't mean for it to turn out like this, but whether
Yeah.
it was on purpose or not, um, I think that there's something that just kind of adds to that appeal of it. That kind of early '80s, um, almost garage band sounding rock with Gillan's kind of smooth choruses and vocals and everything kind of coming in and elevating it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's That's all fair. But all right. Well, this next song off of the album was a single release. So this one is called Nightmare, first song on the second side. Pretty sure I've heard this one before. Great bass tone. This sounds like JLT could have written it. Except it would have been called like Dream Street instead of Dream Street. It's a Dream Street.
Or like Nightmare Little Sister.
Nightmare Little Sweet Sister Nightmare.
Yeah.
Miss Nightmare.
It's got a real pop flavor to it.
Yeah, it sounds like.
You said it was a single?
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that. Sounds very early 80s radio pop.
It's very like. I'm trying to think of the song.
I like that, the really low piano notes in there.
Yep.
Great little guitar line in there too.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds like almost like it could be off of like one of his extra tracks on Sheer Kazoo too.
See, those really low piano notes are what distinguishes it from like any other song.
Oh, totally, yeah. Oh, nice.
That was good. I like that. They were really poppy sounding keyboards in there. Dun, 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 dun. Nothing groundbreaking, but really really cool sounding stuff.
Yeah. All right. So what are you gonna rank this one?
I had fun listening to that one. That's getting a 4. That's yeah, that was really good. The more that I think about it, I feel like it's like a song, like kind of a song of the time that you would hear in a horror movie. Like that the kids are listening to when they're on the way to their impending doom, like they're taking the party car ride, and that's kind of the sequence where they're having a good time and they don't realize that they're going to meet their untimely demise. It kind of makes me think of I think that and specifically the Nightmare on Elm Street, the other ones, the Friday the 13th movies. Alice Cooper had done, when he was in his kind of poppier phase in the 80s, had done, I think, 2 different songs for 2 different movies. There was it was Feed My Frankenstein and Man Behind the Mask. And I think Man Behind the Mask was more, like this didn't sound like it, but it's on the same kind of principle as you have kind of a classic rock guy doing something that's more 80s synth poppy, and it fits in with the kind of soundtrack of the lower budget horror movies of that era. I could picture this being in like a Friday the 13th part, whatever.
This reminds me of another movie
Mhm.
that takes place at a summer camp, which is Wet Hot American Summer. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's great, but there's a training sequence in it where, like, it's a comedy, but it's like
Mhm.
a training sequence where, like, the crazy guy that works at the in the cafeteria, like, trains the guy, how to be a fighter or whatever. And they have like a made up song that's made to kind of sound like this. That's what
Yeah.
this is reminding me of. Is
Huh.
reminding me of that song, like, but it's got that kind of feeling to it. But I will also give this one a 4. I really like it. I think it captures a really great feeling. Um, yeah. So there you go. That one was written by just Towns Alone.
Hmm.
Nightmare on the Towns. The next track was not written by Towns Alone. This one was written by Gillan and McCoy, and this one is called Hadley Bop Bop. Sounds very Deep Purple. Except for the pitch wheel. Hadley Bop Bop?
Yeah, Hadley Bop Bop.
He references the farmers. He says you laid the farmer's daughter and she never died of laughter.
This definitely has more of a classic Gillan band sound to it.
Very unsettling, that little chromatic thing he's doing here.
Yeah. That's great.
Bandstand. You're the king of all the kings and the lord of all them rings. Reading a little Tolkien at this time. Wow.
That was great.
Not even 3 minutes. In and out. Hadley Bop Bop, not Hadley Bop Bop. You can tell that I didn't hear that song before because I would have pronounced it correctly. All right.
Oh,
Hadley Bop Bop. What do you think?
I enjoyed it. Another 4.
Another 4. All right.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it was the Not the verse with the with the keyboard in the background sounded very like Gillan
Yeah.
band. But it was just really, it was really catchy, and it was driving. And I mean, I like Gillan's kind of like nonsense chorus lyrics, hatily bop bop. What the hell does that mean?
That's very good. I mean, not. I mean, I'm looking at the lyrics. I mean, it doesn't. Nothing makes any sense to me.
It worked though. It worked. And
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to make. I've heard plenty. A rap bat blue doesn't make any sense, but it's a great song.
hmm.
I don't know what Hadley is or Hadley. I know
Widdly
Hadley,
diddly.
Massachusetts.
That's Hadley.
Exactly. There's a Hadley.
Hadley.
There's a Hadley that's north of Chicago too.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? All right, a 4. Wow. I think I'll give it a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it quite a bit. It was a nice up tempo, fun, super short, nonsense lyrics. Just a fun time. A lot of energy in it. But I did find that I found that a little unsettling for some reason. Like I kind of
liked it.
I kept wishing he was playing they were playing something else behind that, because it was just a little, but
Yeah.
a minor gripe. And you know what? I can get over it. Life goes on. Much like our next track, which is called Life Goes On. This one is written by Gillan and Towns.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That took a turn.
Ian Gillan band sort of turn almost. We're almost to the end of the lyrics here, so it makes me think that we're in for a big instrumental closing.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
The lyrics are kind of nonsense anyway. I like that repeating part they've had so far, where they bring it down to this different part. Yeah, see that. Yeah, those Ritchie-isms are coming through again.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, because I would say that you got none of that from Torme at all.
Yeah. I think that he might have been a little too much for this album, his style.
Torme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good fit.
This is not Bernie Torme.
Well, I feel like Yannick's style is more, not more anything, a little less flashy.
Yeah.
Which I think works better for this album because this album is not really flashy.
Right.
Like a Mr. Universe solo wouldn't work on this.
No. Well, I think reading those interviews with Bernie Torme, he was saying a lot how people were, you know, even though this wasn't Deep Purple, people were kind of yelling at him about not sounding more like Ritchie, maybe because they did cover songs live or whatever, but that was a weird song.
Yeah.
A very strange Gillan song. What do you think of that one?
Life goes on.
Is it that
It
bad?
does. I'll give it a 3. I think another solid song in parts. I think this might be, because it's a little longer too, maybe one of the first songs that I think was good, but there were parts of it where I'm like, it's going on a little too long.
Yeah.
But overall, I like all the different elements, the performances. Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. I enjoyed.
Yeah, and I don't know the lyric. We don't often get into lyrics at all, but the lyrics to it are just really kind of generic and don't make any sense. Like reading through them, it's just a lot of unreferenced pronouns. Like it's causing me pain. I can't go through it again. Like what are you talking about? In hand so soft, you know you're part of someone else's plan. I mean, you know, maybe makes some sense to somebody, but it just seems like a lot of kind of vague sort of stuff. And, you know, maybe it's got some deep meaning that I'm too stupid to understand, but, you know, it could be like, oh, that was about the, you know, loss of some loved relative or something that I can feel like a jerk. But, yeah, it just, I'll give it a 3 as well. Because I enjoy weird Gillan and Ian Gillan stuff in particular. So.
No, but I mean, this hooked me in. This had my attention. There were a lot of good parts to it. And when you're talking about the lyrics, I mean, it takes a really unusual lyrics for me to kind of take notice and be like, okay, that ruins everything for me. But I think it was I was recently talking to Scott, and it made me think of something that he said, where he sees and I feel the same way too, because he kind of put it in these terms that I'm like, yeah, this is how I always felt. Was I'm not really he's not really a lyrics guy, neither am I. And he said, I see the vocals as more of as an instrument, so it doesn't really matter what is being sung. If it sounds good, then I'm into it. And that's kind of how I've always been, is the words have never really been of primary importance to me. It would just be like if the guitar was actually saying something, I really don't care, as long as it moves me, as it sounds good. So that's like, I mean, Gillan could be going like, you know, that could be like him singing a word, like you were saying on the Gillan Screams episode, that he was singing words, or he was screaming words as opposed to just letting out a scream. To me, it didn't make a difference either way, although I thought it was interesting point, but I think that's how I've always viewed vocals, because I've had some songs that have been favorites of mine for years. Couldn't sing all the lyrics to you if I tried.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We've talked about it a bunch on the show, and it's like the words don't have, like, if the music moves you, then the words will too, no matter how silly they are.
Right.
There's some bands I listen to that, they'll write nonsense lyrics on purpose, but if they've got like a really great melody or make this really great song, you can find yourself like, and even some of the stuff by like Tenacious D, like they write these like um really interesting great melodies and stuff, and you find yourself singing along to these with these either vulgar or nonsense lyrics and being like, oh, it's beautiful. It's like it gives this weight to the lyrics that it wouldn't have otherwise because of the performance and the writing. But anyway, um, we know that Ian Gillan was born again, but did you know that he was also born to kill?
No.
We're about to find out.
And when he
Another Gillan
kills, will he
reference.
rip your spine out?
Goes full circle.
Oh, Jesus. This is like almost 10 minutes.
It's an epic here. It's funny. I just watched the original Blade Runner movie the other day. This is giving me shades of that soundtrack. Evangelist. That sounds like a typical like Collins instrumental performance that usually they just kind of make these be their own track, but maybe they lumped it together with the song total.
It's nice.
I love that juxtaposition of the synths with the acoustic instruments. Always interesting to me. It's no surprise that Colin Towns would go into film and TV scoring shortly after this.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does sound like a score, part of a score.
A piece of land or just a patch of forest where you hunt some meat so you can sit and eat. When you're warm and fed, you can go to bed.
Now this is making up for all the unreferenced pronouns in the last song. Sounds like the beginning to like a crazy epic musical or something.
You find a woman who will make you feel so good, and she will share your life. She will become your wife, and when you're warm and fed, you can go to bed. For her you were born to kill. For her you were born to kill.
I think they're setting us up for something epic coming our way.
It's just a simple life, and when your children grow and they just want to play, it doesn't feel so hey. When the sun goes, the light from your house glows. One day a band of strangers knock at 2
I don't know if this one's working for me.
A little much. Very theatrical.
Yeah. I like this.
Yeah, it's got a nice groove to it.
That was kind of anthemic sounding.
Throwing in a little Future Shock eerie here. Like he had some leftover lyrics from the last album. Very like Styx kind of like quasi music theater sort of thing.
This is really weird.
They're getting out there. Trying to follow along with this lyric sheet. It's a wild ride. Separated into parts. That was part 2. Now we're going into part 3. Almost sounds like a Dream Theater, like early Dream Theater song. The time changes were not as crazy though. You've got all these people shouting the lyrics in the background, but I don't think it works.
Man. Kind of surprised because everything else on this album was so good, and this kind of stinks. Really, I'm not into it.
I mean,
It's just too much.
I can appreciate what they're going for, but it's weird to bring in this weird conceptual, like, theatrical number as the very last song of the album when the rest of the album doesn't seem to have any theme to it. I feel like the first part had like some really intent with the lyrics, and this last part just seems a little repetitive. And it's taking so long to deliver the words like one word at a time, and it's All right. Born to Kill reverberates on off into the distance after 9.5 minutes, testing John's patience.
True.
What do you think about this one?
I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah.
There were a lot of maybe not a lot. There were some good ideas or some good parts in there, but overall, swing and a miss. I really, I didn't like it after kind of the shorter, kind of to the point, but very catchy songs that he had in there. There was like this kind of musical epic that was all over the place and just kind of missed the mark, I think. It didn't really, unfortunately, it was very unfortunate way to end the album,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2 as well. Like,
Yeah,
to
it was
me,
a
this album
mess.
kind of opens weak and ends weak. And just kind of like I think I get what they were going for with this song, but man, it didn't seem to get there. Like, just kind of like the whole, like, to the hills to test their skills to become stronger, live much like that part. I was like, oh my god, is this ever? If I didn't have the lyric sheet in front of me, I would have been like, when is this going to end? Because it was, that whole, like, that's one of Gillan's, I think, only weaknesses is tending to do that thing where he, like, goes right on the beat with his words, or matches the
Yeah.
riff exactly. And
Yeah.
for this song, there were a few flashes. The music was, honestly, the music and everything was well done, but I just don't feel like the words or the melody or anything fit into it properly. And
Well,
it was
I didn't have the lyric sheet in front of me, so imagine how I felt.
yeah, you had no end in sight. But yeah, I feel like lyrically it started kind of strong and then just really fizzled out, and it was just like, life brings confusion, conscious mankind, the futurists, the forward paths, locked in our past. It's like it just was like very stream of consciousness in a way that didn't necessarily work for me. So yeah, that would be my story for this one. Just it kind of fell a little bit short for me anyway.
Right. Yeah, like, bro, calm down.
All right. Well, you know what that means, folks. While John fumbles with the spreadsheet, or busts out the spreadsheet, I should say, we're going to do something that is, of course, equally as important, which is to thank our foundation level patrons. And I pull them up here. Coming in at the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we have Raf Calf, Spike the Rock Cat, and Spike's mom. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, we have Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Duncan Leask, Stuart McCord, Flight of the Rat Bat Blue Light, Ivan Fieldboo.
It's a great life if you know we can.
And Runar Simonson.
It's a great life if you know we can.
Also rounding out the $3 tier, we have JJ Stenard and Ruinous Inadequacies. Coming in at the $1 made-up name tier, we have the Screams of Uncaulked Seams, Leaky Mausoleum. Did we do that one already? Probably.
Yeah.
We did that last time. We'll have to do the Born to Spill. There we go. Leaky Mausoleum. Off the top. Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 fanatic, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel, Blackmore Tights, and John Maselli.
Forget the pencil, you gonna match?
All right. Thank you so much to all of our fabulous patrons. We really appreciate it. All right, John. What do you got for where this stacks up in the old ratings?
Where's my theme music?
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I forgot how to do the show. All right, John, it is that time.
John's busting out the spreadsheet, and he's fumbling with the tabs. Oops, he sorted it the wrong way. Now he can't tell what is bad.
All right, John, where does Double Trouble fall in the gigantic spreadsheet of ratings here we have here, which you can have access to as a patron of the show?
Yes, you can. And you could do the John Matola virtual experience by holding your phone and just not knowing what you're doing. Oh, I can't sort it. Oh, what's
Yeah, you
happening?
just fumble around with it, sort things improperly.
Jeez, I think this
You too can be like a co-host of the Deep Purple podcast.
you too can be confused and not know what's going on. Or
Yeah.
like either one of us, like you forgot my theme music. Yeah, I think
know,
that
right?
sickness is getting to you.
I know it's blocking I'm telling you, I've been really foggy.
So as predicted, Double Trouble is kind of toward the bottom of the ratings spreadsheet with a 6.31. Very small variance betwixt us.
Between and betwixt.
Yes. And it's between Ashton and Lord's First of the Big Bands and Various remachined a tribute to Deep Purple's Machine Head, which
But only because of the the one song.
yeah.
Was it for that one song? Was it the Butthole Surfers?
I don't remember.
Somebody
you know what? I don't want to remember.
that version of Smoke on the Water almost did you in.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
I mean, that thing would have jumped up probably like 30 slots on the sheet if it wasn't for that one track.
But yeah, it's down there with some stuff and then a bunch of Nick Simper dreck. Every time there's a something down on the spreadsheet that's far down there, I'm going to come up with a new word to describe how much disdain I have for Nick Simper's solo work.
That's where all the fandangos and Nick Simper's fandangos are.
Yeah, I think last time I said it was garbage. This time it's dreck.
Fandangos of many colors hang out at the bottom of the spreadsheet.
I just slumming it down there. But I would say that this is one of those albums that I think is a victim of circumstance here. Like I would actually,
yeah, I'm a victim of circumstance.
Yeah, I would actually listen to this again. I was like thinking, hey, I like maybe tomorrow when I'm in the car or something, I would put it on again because there is some good stuff here. And I think that the kind of the more stripped down, I guess you could say, early 80s sound, new wave of British heavy metal, whatever you want to like, kind of combination of styles there, having a new guitar player, a lot of like hooky stuff in there for most of the album. I think it was good, which proves that all things that are lower on the spreadsheet are not created equal.
No, and the further down the spreadsheet you go, the jumps between the rankings are much more substantial. You know, if you go 10 slots up, you go from here, you go from 3.19 to 3.35. If you go 10 slots down, you're at 3.19 to 3.64. You know, so if you go up, you go 15 points, and you go down, you go like 50 or 70 points or whatever that is. What is that? 60, 70 points. So it's a big swing as you get towards the bottom here. It's like time expands out, and time wibbly wobbly time stuff kind of changes and becomes something different, you know, whereas you get to the top of the spreadsheet and things are pretty packed in a little tighter as well. But yeah, anyway, it was a fun listen. I would also definitely like to give it, I like I said, I think the first song wasn't the greatest, the last song wasn't the greatest, but in between I think there was some interesting stuff to listen to. It wouldn't be my go-to Gillan album, but Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And
Yeah,
I'm
I'd say it's
pretty
a dark horse album. If you're like, yeah, I don't want to really listen to Mr. Universe or whatever today, and you want to put on something a little different in the uh, Gillan catalog, this would be right now the album, in my opinion.
yeah, I think yeah, I would love to. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like, hey, this is my favorite Gillan album, and I salute that person because I could see how it, it's got something different in it, and it's a different feel. So that works really well. Um, Jeff Bryce sent over a bunch of really great stuff. He sent over the tour program, which is just as weird as the album. So this album comes out. It comes out. It enters the charts in November of 1981. Highest position is number 12 in the UK charts. It was in the charts for about 15 weeks. Here's some stuff that Jeff Bryce sent over. I can find it on here. Never find the stuff. Here we go. So here's the tour program. It's got this just obviously special thanks to sort of stuff. And then it's got each band member kind of wrote their own thing. And Gillan writes this completely bananas off the wall thing. Like this kind of like starts off with this like sexy sort of story. She moistened her lips lasciviously when I suggested she wash her face properly and undid her jacket and blah blah, and released her aggressive prisoners. Classic Gillan stuff. He goes on and on about this. Just classic Gillan in Weirdistan sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Then Colin Towns writes his own little kind of weird thing. Then you've got some cool pictures here. John McCoy wrote something a little. He says, "Hello, you wonderful people. I'm so glad you could come. Those of you that entered my competition last time will be pleased to know that my dog Sydney ate most of the photographs." So he's posted some pictures of stuff. So just them being weirdos. Probably like management was like, "Hey guys, you should do this," and they just didn't take it seriously, which is kind of what you'd expect. But it's pretty funny stuff. Picture of like Ian Gillan playing cricket, which is interesting. Some cool live shots. It's all smoke going off, and McCoy and Garris there. This photo I've seen before of Gillan with the bandana right at the foot of the lake there, or pond or whatever it is.
It's such a great look for him. I love pictures of him in the bandana.
Oh yeah, like
looks so
shirt.
badass.
I was gonna say like a sleeveless shirt, but I don't think he was wearing a shirt at all.
No.
But yeah, the bandana look, yeah, it's really cool. Then Colin Towns and Mick Underwood holding a candle that's attached to a skull, and then there's like a glass with like a silly straw, and Colin Towns is holding an apple. Just very weird shots. Great stuff though. Really cool little tour program. Really appreciate that. I sent some other stuff. He sent the single for Nightmare, which is the cover for this is an actual nightmare that I will have tonight. I'll show it to you so you can have it. We can share nightmares. So there's
geez.
I don't even know. I can't tell if it's who it is or what it is, but it's like a photograph in kind of negative, and but some of the stuff's colored in, like so the mouth is colored in red with these like floating black teeth and these crazy eyes. It's absolutely bananas.
Yeah, that's that's like up there with Mr. Bill.
Yes. I think whoever did the album art for this understood the assignment. They're like, hey, we got a song called Nightmare. Make some art for it. Got it. You will have nightmares for the rest of your life based on this. That to me is scarier than any like spooky movie or whatever.
Mm.
Know what else we got here? Just some other stuff, some CD releases. You got some stuff from Kerrang in here. There's a nice article in Kerrang, but then what I wanted to get into was this, which is the review Simon Robinson wrote in Darker Than Blue, issue number 25, July 1982. He says, I've had plenty of time in which to listen to Ian's latest, as a result, which some of it has grown on me, and what seemed initially like a non-starter of an album, bar one track now rates somewhat higher. The realization of this came when I found myself humming a Gillan track without being able to recall which it was. It turned out to be Rip Your Spine. Now one of my favorites, let down only by the rather predictable synth tone in the solo. Restless we all restless were all well restless we were all well. Sorry, it's hard to read across this. I'm gonna move this monitor to make it a little easier. Maybe this will make it a little easier.
Nate's having problems, folks.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to read over my shoulder at that other monitor. Maybe this will make it easier. Maybe not. Maybe I just can't read. He says, I find the vocals during the verses attractive, but the Jimmy Jimmy bit turns me off. It's the next cut, Men of War, which really slays me and has done from the first play. The vocals soaring in and out, growling and screaming, magnificent. Wish they'd been a little more mixed up, maybe on a 12-inch single. The guitar works well, but again, I find the keyboard somewhat ordinary. Sunbeam, the closer, doesn't do anything for me at all. Strange track. Might have worked if they'd done it as a real quiet thing. Side 2 takes off with the original single Nightmare, which sounded good on the radio, but it seems a little out of place on the LP. Maybe a different mix or something. Hadley Bop Bop deserves a mention just for that title, whatever it means. It's short but punchy and fun, perhaps made with a 45 with a little work. We even see the return of the farmer's daughter on it. The album ends with only 2 Gillan Towns compositions, of which I think I prefer Life Goes On. A marked change in style instrumentally, and some good vocals, marred only in a couple of places where he sounds really rough. Pity they didn't return and redo those little bits, as it's the only place on the LP which sounds like that. We even get some of the Mary Longs sneaking in near the end, with a nice dramatic closer, which is more than you can say for Born to Kill. It fizzles out after such a good build-up throughout all the different tempos, etc. Certainly good stuff. Colin playing well, and I feel I'd go for it more if they had not done it so well live. So apparently they do it live. At times I do find myself missing the Gillan thrash of yore, and the mix isn't anything to shout about, but the album certainly has more going for it than the last poor effort. Gears slots in well, only 2 Blackmore-esque solos throughout. I know I know Torme has his fans, but to me his work graded on the ears a lot of the time. Gillan is still the only Purple member who's making stuff I genuinely like in its own right, and I find I'm playing his best tracks quite a lot of late. Be real fun doing a best of. That could be a killer album. As for the rest of the package, the bonus live LP is a real duffer. To think that Ian still worries about his performances on Made in Japan. Poor recordings too, and mad aside. Sorry, I'm reaching the end of my speaking voice here. The sleeve too is a hack job, crummy artwork. What's Phil Oakey doing on the front anyway? And the only good photo, that of Ian with his congas. Enough of that. What about the singles? So there you go. What do you think of his takes on that?
It's always interesting to hear a lot of those observations that we make, that we blindly make, and then we read an old article and it basically says the same things.
Yeah,
like the Blackmore-esque solos. Like who else would have picked that out?
Yep.
I mean, it's it makes you think, okay, it's got to be true. I mean, somebody else just said it. I mean, I never read that before. And he said something about the mix, which we commented about.
Yeah.
There were some things I didn't agree with, saying the prior album wasn't any good, or something to that effect, or that Torme, like, kind of saying that his guitar playing wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Some bullshit. But yeah, I would say it's mostly opinion. I feel like I like the album a little bit more than this dude, but yeah, I always think that that's interesting when those different points of view across many different years kind of line up.
Yeah, well, I think for Simon Robinson's always got like some things to say, but obviously he loves this stuff, and he loves all the stuff related to Deep Purple. So he, even when he's being really hard on something, or it sounds like he's being really hard on something, he's probably likes it more than you do.
Yeah.
But then there's like an interview with in Kerrang magazine with Ian Gillan, just to close it out, where he talks about the article opens with, in a field somewhere between London and Reading lies a tape of Double Trouble, a 2-record set containing both live and studio material. It surpassed all previous Gillan albums in terms of overall sales. Yet a pre-release earful of the studio half during a 5th gear burn-up on the M4 proved more than enough for Gillan himself. The songs he liked, the mix handled by U.S. producer Steve Smith, he didn't. And then it's a quote from Ian. He says, "I wound down the window, ripped the tape out of the cassette player, and threw it away. It was crap." So all across England and everywhere, there's just tapes and cassettes and everything thrown out the window by Gillan and Blackmore over the years. It'd be good. I'd love to know that person that was just like walking by and was like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, Deep Purple Stormbringer on cassette." Little did they know it was tossed out of a window by Ritchie Blackmore.
Born Again album covers.
Yeah, throwing out windows of cars or buildings. Just stuff.
Very temperamental dude.
I mean, yeah, you wonder how much of it is literal and how much of it wasn't. But I could see them just being like, this stinks and throwing them out. But I mean, I would agree with them on the mix. Or if it's the master, no, it's got to be the mix. It just doesn't. I don't even think it's the mix so much as that. Like if you record something far away, that like game over. You can't mix it so that it sounds close up. It's you can do things to compensate for it, but you really, you gotta kind of do it right from the beginning. So that might be part of it. But he talks about this in Child of Time. He says he ditched it out the car window. He says, "A few weeks later I listened to it again and I realized I had completely missed it. How stupid I had been, because it was a fine piece of progressive rock, and I don't think I'd ever felt that way since the early Purple days. Songs like Restless, I'll Rip Your Spine Out, and Hadely Bop Bop, No Easy Way, and The Single Nightmare all jumped out at me. Who said you couldn't make a good album while on the road?" Gillan at this point were consistently playing 200 shows a year, so that's a lot of touring. It almost makes you wonder, was his publicist like, "Hey man, you trashed your own album in the magazine, you got to dial it back. It's gonna hurt album sales when the artist is saying it's crap." But of course this was years later in his book, so I think the initial album sales would have been long gone by then. But anyway, that's it. That is Double Trouble. I'm not going to get to maybe one day we'll do the live part of it, but
not now.
It's live stuff from years earlier. Yeah, definitely not now.
Not today.
Yeah,
Nate's tired.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you really want a 3+ hour show, then some people would be happy about that. Some people not so much. But yeah, one day in the future maybe we'll do it. But it's not even, to me, it's like live recordings. It's not even this lineup, so it's kind of a weird thing. But anyway, well, with that, my friend, I will bid you adieu. I'm hoping that by the next episode, my foot will not be sore from stomping on the cough switch. I will not have to signal you to talk so I can drink water or hack my brains out, and that will be somewhat more back to normal. But we'll see what happens next week.
Hope so. But either way, we will always be on this show. Double Trouble.
That's right. That's the real Double Trouble.
Us.
Oh, which one of us is going to be wearing the mini skirt, and which one of us is wearing the dress?
Oh boy. Well, let's fight that one out after the we sign off.
We can have a 45-minute meeting after the show to talk about that.
We'll talk about it offline. All right.
All right, my friend. I will talk to you later.
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.